Okay, this is part 2, and the story here begins on August 1st, 2001. I'm trying to be quiet with the cough drop. Hang on. Okay. So at this point, I realized that I can't keep driving around to every fast food restaurant just to buy, condiments, basically. Or at least that's what I think. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get a lot of condiments to make some more videos now that this thing is kind of working out. And we realize just pouring sauce on hamburgers is getting views. And from there I can use the narrations and the captions as the art over the shock value of the burgers. And one of the first things I did is I went on Nextdoor, which is a social media site, just local, hyper local for people who live in your area. And I asked people, did they have ketchup packets and stuff in their kitchen that, people would order takeout food. They'd always give you extra. And people would always stick them in the drawers in the kitchen. And a lot of people did, and they were very kind and very responsive because they had been collecting them for a long time and didn't know what they were ever going to do with them. A lot of them were probably expired, and I said, look, I don't need to eat them. I need to use them for an art project. And people were actually really nice and really happy to help. It was one of the few times living in LA that so many strangers were so nice and so happy to help. And I drove around and people would hand me a bag through the car window or leave it on their porch or whatever. And I actually did get quite a lot of condiments that way very quickly. And I must have used those condiments right around that day. Now, I don't remember doing this exactly. And again, the dates that I'm going by are the dates of the pictures in my photos. But the Mr. Beast, who is a huge YouTuber, had just started his first licensed ghost kitchen brand, which was called Mr. Beast Burger. So it just seemed like a natural thing to me that if we're going to do this, we should make a video where we pour sauce all over a Mr. Beast burger. And I did. And it almost immediately got 1 million views on August 1st. And also, it was the first one I had filmed instead of trying to do the whole big setup in the kitchen with the table I'd bought for YouTube. I just put it on my regular folding dining table from IKEA that was mounted to the wall. And I realized that that was going to be the stage. If I was going to make some kind of theater production or sort of miniature television studio due to the scale of the hamburgers, I realized that, basically my kitchen table was going to be the set. And I started figuring out the lighting, which at first was just a battery-operated video light. Took 2 AA batteries, but it wasn't strong enough. So I got some small ring lights that were very inexpensive, and I built a little set. And because people were starting to copy the Big Mac video, which had gone so incredibly viral, the Big Mac video I had filmed in a McDonald's, but here I was going to be filming videos in my kitchen. So I just wrote Fast Food Legend with a Sharpie marker on a Post-it note and stuck it on the wall I got that from the band Kiss, the way that they would have the name of the band in big letters behind them so that it burned into people's eyes and they'd remember it. I figured that this served the purpose of both letting people know about the channel and preventing somebody from stealing the video. Because if they stole the video and they posted it and it went viral on their account, they would get money for the views and I wouldn't, and I had made the work. So it was important to me to find a way to protect my work. And that was on August 2nd, 2021, that I decided that the kitchen table was officially going to be the set. having filmed the Mr. Beast Burger video on it just before that. Around this time, too, there was a little change in the culture because for a few years, things had been really going towards healthy foods, organic foods, vegan foods. Younger people especially were not drinking soda. They were drinking seltzer, all this kind of stuff. So the fast food chains were not doing well for a while. They were really in a decline. And for whatever reason, around this time, the way that they were starting to gain favor again using social media was to do licensing deals with celebrities. And one of the first big ones was the singer Sweetie, and she did a meal with McDonald's. And so I figured that was probably going to be a very good thing for social media to have me pouring sauce or doing something with this Sweetie meal. So let me break down the Sweetie meal for you for a minute. Normally, somebody would go to McDonald's and they'd either have a hamburger or they'd have chicken McNuggets. Those were two separate entrees. But McDonald's had been trying to get people to eat more and buy more. So they started showing the chicken McNuggets as a side item. And part of the promotion with this Sweetie meal was that they wanted you to basically do what I had been doing in the videos, make this sort of fast food hack. And so there was a promotional photograph for the meal before it came out where it showed the hamburger and somebody had put the chicken nuggets on top of the hamburger. And I started looking at that. I started looking at everything that was going to be in the meal. And I really sat there for a few hours looking at everything. How was I going to lay this out on the table? How was it going to look? What was I going to do? And the challenge in trying to make something even stupider than it already was how do you do something worse with this that they haven't already done? How do you destroy the food that they've already destroyed? What are you going to do? And I realized that the only item that wasn't being engaged in this collage or in this, whatever we're going to call it, was the beverage. And so what I would have to do is recreate the sandwich the way it was in the ad on camera and then pour the beverage over the sandwich. And that would serve as the punchline of the joke, but also kind of infuriate people who believed that this concoction in the first place was a desirable thing. So that's what I did. And that video did very, very well, very quickly. But it also made me realize that because these meals are only in the restaurants for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, those videos have a very short lifespan. And because you have no control over the TikTok algorithm, people might not start seeing those videos until months after these meals no longer exist. And because the packaging and everything is so specific for these kind of celebrity meals, it's a bit of a conundrum. The other thing is that, and this is just coming back from art in general, you kind of want to make works that are timeless to a degree. Now that's hard to do with fast food packaging, but a Big Mac is a Big Mac. Even if the ingredients change a little, you can still look at it and say that's a Big Mac, and the using it as your canvas, you can still tell a timeless story with it. But when you're relying too heavily on the packaging or on the construction, I guess, the composition of the sandwich based on a promotion, it's immediately dated and it's not reusable in the future. That said, it would get you a lot of views very quickly if it was shown to people quickly, and it was extremely stupid, which the goal of the project was to be as stupid as possible, and then even stupider than that, and then even stupider than that, and even stupider than that. So this was the first time I had become aware of the celebrity meal issue. The next 2 days later, August 11th, 2021, I was fully engaged in Fast Food Legend. I had now had multiple videos that had gotten 1 million views. I now had a lot of success starting to happen quickly around it. And I was starting to have a lot of ideas, thankfully. I had put together a kit that I took in my car with cleaning supplies that I'd bring into the restaurants. I'd replace the Joby pod with some other kinds of equipment to hold the cameras, pocket light with the battery. And on August 11th, I did filmed videos at In-N-Out Burger the very second they opened so that it wouldn't be full. Five Guys in West Hollywood and the Shake Shack in West Hollywood. And the Shake Shack was the only place I ever filmed that an employee got in front of the camera and tried having a conversation with me while I was filming, completely ruining the video. And I was very resentful towards a lot of people in West Hollywood and a lot of businesses in West Hollywood because of this, because West Hollywood was literally the epicenter of social media at that point. Every big social media star was within a 10-minute drive of West Hollywood at that point. And all of the businesses there that should have been courting these people were completely unaccommodating to them in every way possible. It was insane. And that was just one of many examples of that. So I was driving around with boxes of sauces and bags of cleaning supplies, going from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant all day filming. And the next day, I realized that, hey, if I'm going to be photographing all this food and spending all this money and doing all this stuff, maybe I should learn how to photograph food because I'm really doing a bad job of it. Even though TikTok, it's a benefit when your photography is bad or your videography is bad. I also, in the back of my head, knew I was doing something weird that I'd want to do something else with later. And if only for the production stills, I should really learn how to take a better picture of the food. So I took this online one-day food photography course through the library. Now, there's a 10-day gap in my notes here, which I have to assume was either I was sick, which I used to get a lot of migraines, or I was out just filming more hamburgers. It's possible. But on August 22nd, I filmed the Starbucks video. And the Starbucks video was filmed on the corner of Olympic and Wilton, I believe, across from a Carl's Jr. Jeff was with me, and I gave Jeff a separate camera, and he filmed me filming the video. And I know we've got that on a backup hard drive somewhere, but I don't know where. I don't like to look at it because my weight has been a big problem for the last few years, like a big, big problem. And when I see that, I'm just so disgustingly obese. But we have it just for reference. And we filmed it specifically because I was getting a lot of nasty comments from people who just automatically assumed that I went in these restaurants and I made a big mess and then I left for the employees to clean up. And I thought that was very interesting that people just assume that when my voice doesn't appear, I don't appear. There's no information of any kind. So because I was actually cleaning up a lot and going in, ordering and saying to the employees, don't worry, I'm going to clean everything up. You can see I've got all this stuff, and tipping whenever they'd allow me to. We filmed the video of me making the video and then me cleaning up. So we had evidence that I do clean these things up. Okay. And then the next day, so the next day in the morning, Justin came to visit, and he was staying up near Malibu. So we went for a walk on the beach in Malibu, and I took a picture that I would later use as one of the hamburger collage pieces. And then later that day, there was this TikTok trend where people would stand in front of the camera and there was a song playing and they would make two fists and bump the fists on top of each other. And then the caption had something, I don't remember what. And I copied this using a hamburger with eyeballs on a box, 2 chicken nuggets for fists, and French fries on a skewer, creating the arms. The video didn't do anything, but I was just trying to play around with having the hamburgers be characters that could do anything that anyone else could do on TikTok. Dancing would have been hard, but this was possible. On August 28th, the Starbucks video finally started getting views. It went from 105,000 views to 218,000 views in one day. And the Fast Food Legend channel in general hit 1 million likes on August 28th, 2021, which is not bad because as I'm looking here, that was just 2 months. On June 22nd, 2021, I filmed at the Arby's. And on August 28th, 2021, I had 1 million likes and at least 4 million views in just 2 months. And on the September 1st, the Starbucks video hit 1 million views, which is great. The Starbucks video, I believe, is the most viewed video that I've made on any platform, and I'm quite proud of it. I think that the Big Mac was the idea, but the Starbucks was a big improvement on the idea. And the Starbucks video, I remember, took like 3 hours to edit. Even though it's one static shot filmed in real time, the TikTok interface for the voiceover and the captions was so painful to use. And you have to have the tiniest little hands, which I don't have. And I tried it on a tablet. I tried a bunch of different ways to do it, but it was a ton of work. It took hours, and if you'd cough the wrong way, you'd lose all the work that you had put into it and have to start again. So I was very, very proud of it, and I edited it in the app because I had learned from that TikTok class that they would give preference to videos that were edited in the app as opposed to edited on a regular nonlinear system and then imported, which would have been a lot easier to do. Also, I'm remembering that around this time, TikTok had just first allowed a 3-minute video before it was restricted to 60 seconds or whatever. And the Starbucks video should be just about 3 minutes. So they were also really pushing those longer videos. And I do remember, as I'm just thinking about this now and telling you this story, that part of the artistry of this was trying to figure out how to do each of these things in 3 minutes or just under 3 minutes without speeding up or slowing down the video. And I must have had a timer going in the background to try to work with that, which is why if you watch a lot of these videos, you'll notice they start off at one pace and then kind of speed up towards the end, like how quickly I'm doing things, which accidentally people thought was part of the narrative, but it was really just me trying to finish making the video in under the 3-minute mark. Coming back to the talking hamburgers with the eyeballs. So originally, I was just picking up the upper bun with my hand, moving it up and down, but the buns were crumbling really fast doing that. And I realized I'd have to fabricate some kind of tool to make the hamburgers talk that would protect the bun, because I was going through like 4 hamburger buns an hour, and I started actually ordering extra buns at Burger King. Whenever a hamburger is talking, I quickly realized that the Whopper Junior was the best sized hamburger for it, and to try to order it without any toppings. That's what I learned over time. So I used just popsicle sticks and kebab skewers and a pair of scissors and a hot glue gun and kind of put something together. It worked, but it wasn't great. There was a lot of finagling also with the eyeballs. There are different size eyeballs depending on the emotion of the hamburger or the size of the hamburger bun. And cutting the skewers in such a way that because it took the eyeballs, you couldn't just glue the eyeball onto the hamburger bun, it would fall right off. I'd have to take a piece of skewer and cut it like a spike, and then glue the eyeball onto that, and then push that spike through the bun. But a lot of times it would be crooked and come up the top of the head of the bun, and it was very hard to do. I used I'd go to Daiso and buy those foam bricks that you use for flour arranging, and cut the skewers down and line them up and then glue that way, sort of an assembly line. And I'd have food storage container just full of eyeballs glued to little skewer pieces to very quickly make those videos when I wanted to. On September 12th, 2021, I came up with this idea for what I called the best Chipotle hack ever. And by the way, I want to tell you about the titles for a second. I don't know which class I had taken, but somewhere along the line, I learned that you should go on Google Trends. Let's say you're making a Taco Bell video. Just go on Google Trends and find out what people are searching for Taco Bell and make that the title of your video. On TikTok, that didn't work very well, but on YouTube, that worked like magic. And I'm going to tell you more about that in a little bit, but just remember that because that comes into play here with the Taco Bell stuff. So on September 12th, 2021, I attempted to order everything on the Taco Bell menu in the app, but there's a limit to how much money they will let you spend in one shot at Taco Bell. And I also learned that there are a lot of items available in the app that you cannot just buy in the store. So I had tried to place this order on the app. It wasn't working out. Jeff and I drove to the store. I used a kiosk. I ordered one of everything. I had to make like multiple purchases because I kept hitting the limit, the dollar limit. I also went to Chipotle and just ordered a side of plain tortilla, like they would wrap the burritos in. I don't know why we went back to using the big table, but we went back to using the big table. And somewhere I've got a behind the scenes video, which is just hilarious, of Jeff very quietly passing me each item one at a time as I throw every item in the Taco Bell menu in the bowl and then mix it up with my hands, then put it in a tortilla and wrap it into a burrito. But that's how the title Best Chipotle Hack Ever originated, was from that Google Trends thing. So that was on September 12th, and that one blew up really fast. It also had a lot of editing, even though it was a static shot, because I had to put the captions. And the other big change in this was that I filmed it with two cameras because I realized from two different angles. I was trying to post content on both TikTok and YouTube. And if you posted video on one and the other, both of them would somehow sort of filter it and know and not show it to as many people. So part of the game here was doing one performance, basically, with multiple cameras so that you could use the footage from each camera independently to post footage on different platforms without them flagging each other for it. At one point, I think I was using 3 cameras for every shot that I did. So I'd have 3 fresh pieces of footage that I could use. And I did a lot with phones just because they're smaller. And I got special tripod mounts that held multiple phones close to each other simultaneously. On September 15th, 2021, Phineas, who is Billie Eilish's brother, posted a comment on the Taco Bell video, being like my first celebrity fan for this food stuff. And also, more importantly, because he posted that comment, it brought a ton of people to the page. Like, I was already getting big fast, but that really was like pouring gasoline on a fire. It was really amazing. On September 17th, I had used up all the condiments that I'd gotten from next door. And and so I bought on eBay. I've got some screenshots and stuff of it. It was from like a hoarder coupon lady, 10 pounds of expired condiments. And when this enormous box came, I was finding all this, like a giant wooden pepper mill, brand new, in there. I believe I found a shoe in there. I believe I found cat toys in there. Just random household hoarder garbage mixed in with these condiment packets that had all expired but were good enough for my videos. Okay, my voice is really starting to hurt. I'm going to pause again in 1 second. But let me just tell you about... No, I'm going to pause. I'll be back. That's part 2.